We got him, baby.
Let's go, baby.
All right, folks, welcome to the first Midwest Madness podcast. It's great to have you guys here today. Thank you all so much for listening. We are excited, as you guys probably are, to listen, to record this for you all. It's been a long time coming, and we really hope that you guys will be able to further understand a little bit about us, how we came to be, and where we plan to go in the future. Today, here sitting with me in our dining room, I have Luke and Adam. I'm, of course, Isaac, and we're going to get this rolling. You guys bear with us. We may have some gaffes and some funny things, but we're going to do our best, so you guys just bear with us. Really hope you enjoy it. So the first thing we're going to start off with, to let you guys get to know a little bit more about us, we're going to go around and we are going to do a profile of Midwest Madness. For those of you who don't know, Midwest Madness is myself, Isaac Kent, Adam Kent is the next, and then Luke Kent is the youngest. That makes up Midwest Madness. Let's start from the youngest. Luke, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, my name's Luke. As everybody knows, I'm a cameraman. Usually don't get in many videos or pictures or whatever because I'm usually the one taking them. I'm 20 years old now, and honestly, I just love traveling and hunting. If I had to say my favorite type of hunt would probably be in the snow. I know it's just random off the top, but it's just what I was thinking about. And I like to play intramural football at college, flag football, and club baseball. So I'm sure that goes for Adam too and all of us, but that's that.
All right, Adam.
And I am Adam. I do all the stupid stuff, pretty much.
Facts.
I don't know what else I'm supposed to say. I like hunting in the snow, like Luke. We don't really hunt in the.
Did you say how old you were?
My name's Rod, and I like to party.
21. Yeah, and we play a lot of flag football, which we are the intramural champions.
We are the intramural champions.
You know, we don't mess around.
Of Eastern Kentucky.
Yeah.
We do not mess around with some flag football and other intramural sports, but that's about it.
All right, well, I'm Isaac. I am 23 years old. I have been basically probably the outdoor nature nerd for the majority of my life.
Nerd.
Yeah, pretty much. And, I'm always the one that identifies the plants, the trees. The boys always, they rag on me because of our differing styles of hunting and fishing and just life in general. But, so I love nature. I love being out in the outdoors. I always have. I also love to play baseball. We all three played on the club baseball team together at Eastern, which is a pretty cool thing. I mean, club baseball is not exactly varsity, but it's a cool thing to do, and to do it with your three brothers, in addition to hunting, filming, fishing, and going to class.
And we hit
bombs. That's right. We're beasts. Anyway, that being said, I'm also the only married one of the three of us.
Thank goodness.
Yeah. Once again, differing lifestyle opinions, but we all work together. I think that's I think that's pretty much a good profile on me. But
Unless Sydney Wells wants to slide in the DMs.
yeah, Sydney, if you are watching this podcast, which is highly unlikely, at Luke Kent 14 on Instagram, give him a follow.
A couple years behind, but that's all right. Anyways,
Yeah.
all right.
Anyway, so I want to catch you guys up to speed a little bit about Midwest Madness. If you're a first-time listener, if you don't follow our social medias, first of all, our biggest platform is Instagram. Instagram, on there we currently have 11,329 followers. That is our biggest platform. That is where we post the majority of our content. Our username is @midwest.madness. Make sure you guys check that out. Our Facebook, you can find us, Midwest Madness. Twitter, same thing, @MadnessMidwest. YouTube, @Midwest. It's Midwest Madness. You just look it up. You'll find us. We're not that hard to find. Anyway, that being said, basically, we wanted to, in this podcast, do a little bit of a background so that our followers or new listeners or watchers may get a little better idea about us. So, I'll start it off, and you boys feel free to interject whenever you want to, if you have a story or if I miss a detail. But basically, Midwest Madness, we started off in around 2013. It was kind of just like a brainchild at that point. Like we really wanted to do something as far as filming and hunting. We grew up watching, Real Tree Road Trips with Michael Waddell.
Tom Miranda.
Yeah, Monster Bucks with David Blanton. Territories Wild with Tom Miranda, like Adam said.
Tim Wells,
the Slock Master. All these people that we grew up watching, and we just knew that that was something that we wanted to do one day. But at that time, around 2013, the YouTube and social media hunting and fishing game really wasn't that big. So we kind of decided, hey, I asked for a camera for Christmas that year, and I got a Canon Vixia HF-R 400, which, for those of you that don't know cameras, the thing is worth, in 2013 was worth a solid $300, and now you could probably buy them for about 50 to 80 bucks on Amazon. So as for that, we kind of toyed around playing some logos together. We had some friends that kind of did that stuff with us, but we never really thought of it anything really seriously, other than just having a good time with our brothers. To set the scene on that, we grew up in South Carolina. We moved to Kentucky in 2007. We moved on to 17 acres. And prior to that, none of us had ever been hunting before. I'd been one time in South Carolina, and we went out. We saw tons of deer on this property. I mean, we never went without seeing a deer, and it really just built that fire inside of us to hunt and to just be outside and be in nature. And when we grew up, our dad really had never done a lot of hunting either. And the boys can attest to this. We truly did grow up doing it against the grain to a lot of people's standards. Our dad was learning and teaching us as he learned. And so we just, that's kind of how we learned to hunt. And that formed our perceptions on how and why we did what we did and do what we do now. So at this point now we're around 2014. That's when we first kind of started getting in to filming some hunts. Do you guys have anything that's kind of fond in your memory of maybe around that time when we started doing that, maybe something that piqued your interest, you thought maybe this might be a good thing to do?
Well, first off, I'll say South Carolina, there's no deer.
At least where we hunted.
Yeah, we never saw any deer. It was, tough to hunt out there and literally not see anything. So we moved to Kentucky. We moved on a farm. And that's when we actually got into hunting, because we would go out there and every single time you'd go, it was like something new that we'd never seen before. So we started getting into that, and that was when we were really young. And then we moved on to a farm in 2014, right? So it was 2014 when we actually decided that we could take the camera and go out and start filming stuff, because we had never been able to go out and see bucks in early season or during the summer and actually follow them. So that's when we kind of got into it, started filming them, and then seeing them during the regular season was really cool. And I think that was the first time that we'd been able to just do whatever we want Like wherever you want to go, you can go hunt. You know, get out of school and just go roam the woods for hours. Like just the best place that you could possibly want to live as a kid, like that just wants to hunt all the time.
Yeah. Adam, what do you think?
Yeah, like Luke said, we literally had 500 acres from our house to the interstate, and we could go out there and literally just do whatever we wanted. We were never bored. We got home from school and we got the 22s and whatever, because we didn't have much stuff.
Didn't sit inside.
Yeah, we never sat inside. We never played video games. We went out and we just, built forts and fished and killed stuff. That's pretty much.
I mean, for a brash way of saying it, but I think what Adam means is we were raised not in a way to glorify killing necessarily, but we were raised in a way to learn that every part of the land has a value, even the squirrels and the rabbits and the turkeys and the doves and all these animals that are considered game. There was always something for us to hunt or always something for us to catch. And instead of using those talents or what have you to be inside, play video games, whatever, we just chose to do those things outside. And, we learned as we went. And kind of, I think, what shaped how we are today and kind of what shapes our uniqueness is that growing up, we had no idea of how things were supposed to look or what you were supposed to do, what was the right way of doing it. So our methodology of hunting came about by literally trial and error. We would go out, we would try something, or maybe we got out late, or maybe we, did something funny that made us do something differently, and that shaped our opinion on what works and what doesn't. And we actually had quite a bit of success doing that.
We're still doing that. Yeah, we're still trying to figure that out.
It's not funny in the moment. It's like you feel such an idiot in the moment, but now it's like the stories we have are pretty
Well, why don't we give everybody a story? Each one of us, let's tell a short story of a time that you think of a hunt that maybe kind of shaped how you hunt today or something like that, so people will understand. When I look at you guys, I know these hunts in my mind that now when you do something, I'm like, yep, I know exactly why I did that. But people that are listening might not understand that. So maybe give a little like a hunt scenario that happened to you that could help them understand you better.
All right, I'll give my hunt scenario. This was the time that I realized that I liked deer hunting and that I needed to get a new bow. So it was the 2014 deer season, and it was actually Isaac. He decided that he was going to go out and scout and put up a new tree stand just randomly. He was like, hey, I'm going to go put up this new stand. So he was like, do you want to help me? So I was like, yeah, whatever, I'll help. So he gets the four-wheeler out and puts two stands on the four-wheeler. I was like, what the heck? And he was like, well, we're going to hang a double stand. And we had usually we never hunted in stands, really. But there was this really perfect field that Isaac had found, and he was like, all right, we're going to hang a double stand. So we go out there and hang this double stand, and I think it was the very first night. It was literally the same exact day. You asked me, you were like, hey, do you want to go with me and just like sit out there, whatever. We literally didn't even have a camera yet. We got our first camera the Christmas after that was the 2013
fall.
Yeah, the 2013 fall, whatever it was. Anyways, so dude, I hardly owned any camo, whatever. I literally wore black rubber boots like outside of my pants. I had no clue what I was doing. I had just got a Walmart bow, like the 40-pound Walmart bow that you can buy, and had been like practicing shooting off the roof like with that at the house. And so I get in my stand and Isaac's in his stand. Well, not 30 minutes into this hunt, the biggest buck that I've ever seen, and probably one of the biggest bucks that you've ever seen, walked out. It was probably 10 or 12 pointer. Honestly, I was shocked. I didn't even have time to think about it. I think I was in 8th grade. It was the very beginning of my 8th grade year that fall. And so I had never seen a deer like that. Well, he comes right in, just straight towards us, and I was like, oh, Isaac's about to shoot this buck. This is freaking awesome. So I'm just sitting here chilling with nothing on my mind except for Isaac's about to smoke this buck. Isaac's about to smoke this buck. And then, wouldn't you know it, the buck goes to Isaac's side and stops right behind a cedar tree. And I was like, well, dang. I was like, he's got to come out at some point. Isaac's going to get him. Well, what happened is he turns and he starts coming towards my side of the tree. Well, when he was behind the cedar tree, I'm over here literally shaking in my little rubber boots from Walmart. I got my Walmart bow with me. I mean, my camo was trash. Isaac's like, stand up. And I was like, what are you talking about? I was like, I don't know what the heck I'm about to do. Isaac was like, stand up, dude. And this buck was right underneath of us. I mean, probably 6 yards.
Oh, less than that.
Probably even less than 6 yards. Anyways, so I stand up, and I got this little rinky-dink Walmart bow. And as soon as he got right there, I shot him, and the arrow went in. But it didn't go in super far. And he took off, and I was so pumped. And we thought that we had got this buck, and it was the first deer that I had ever shot. And so I'm thinking, heck yeah, I'm the youngest. I just got the biggest buck out of anybody my whole family's ever got. This is about to be awesome. Well, I think what had happened is that I got overly excited, and we had never really killed a big deer like that. We'd never hardly killed any deer. And so we decided that we were just going to wait just a little bit, and it was a really good lung shot, so we were just going to go track it. Well, what happened is we ran back and got flashlights and came right back out, probably 45 minutes or something. And we started tracking him and found all kinds of blood. And I think we bumped him with him. I mean, we had just started tracking probably 45 minutes after. And we bumped him out of there, rookie move, and ended up finding where he had bedded down and probably would have died less than 100 yards from the stand. So that was like my first heartbreak because, man, we looked in those woods forever and ever and ever. And then once I had felt what it was like to actually shoot at an animal like that, especially at 5 yards with my bow, and knowing, my arrow didn't pass through or anything like that, it really got me hooked and had me wanting to look into getting a new bow and going out and practicing shooting so I knew what to do when the time came, and kind of just gave me the adrenaline to keep bow hunting. And so I guess that's my defining story. Kind of sad, but it got me into it.
That's how they all are.
We grid searched for that deer for like 3 weeks, never found it. It's a shame. I don't know where it went, but we had 500 acres and we couldn't find it. So
that's how it goes sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes it is.
You live and you learn, I guess.
Yeah, that's right. All right, Adam, what you got for us?
Well, I got like a bazillion stories.
Just give us one. I have one that I think
me and Adam have more together than probably most people
Let's see if he picks the one that I think he's going to pick, because I have it in my mind.
So many I could pick, but I don't know. There was one time during the rut when I think it was 2014. We had been there a year or so, and me and Luke tried this random spot.
Here we go, me and Luke.
Yeah, this is how they all
The
start.
Adventures of Luke and Adam.
Yeah.
This is what we want you guys to know, because most people don't know, but me and Adam are a dynamic duo in the woods.
Well, let me tell you guys. So Adam and Luke, I usually typically hunt by myself, and Adam and Luke typically hunt together. Just when there's three of you, that's just how it goes. So Adam and Luke always come back. Always. I saw the biggest buck. Oh, I saw this huge turkey, whatever. And there's always some excuse. I'm like, well, where is it? And there's always something that happened, some variable that, well, it did this or this happened.
Well, here, let me tell you.
Okay, go ahead.
So we had this this camo mesh, and we set it up. We wrapped it around this tree.
Walmart special.
Yeah, the Walmart special, and it was like a cluster of three trees, and we sat in the middle of it, and we wrapped the stuff around it, and we're it's kind of funny. We're just big rattlers in the rut. We just rattle like crazy, and guess what? It gets results. It's a hated on method, but it gets results. So you
guys have to understand, Adam's rattling tactic is we found this huge 13-point deadhead one year, and Adam cut these massive. I mean, I'm talking Coke bottle mass around the bases. Okay, mass, and these bad boys. You cannot find a rattling antler this big in a store anywhere. And Adam's philosophy is literally, it's like people say throw big baits to catch big fish. Adam's like, I'm gonna rattle the biggest daggum antlers I can find, like as loud as possible. So if we're ever hunting together, if they are within a mile of me, which you got to be on a big property to be within a mile. Adam, I can hear him if he rattles anywhere on this property. So anyway, that sets the stage for Adam's rattling, what should we call it, technique?
Yeah,
okay.
exactly.
Now, Adam,
That's exactly
please
my
continue.
technique. But so we get set up or whatever, and we start rattling because it's the rut, and it wasn't even. I don't even remember how long into the hunt it was. It probably wasn't that long, but we finished rattling, and I hear like running towards us, like just some leaves, like the typical ch-ch. And I didn't think anything of it because I don't know. I just never seen big deer, and it was probably one of the first times we rattled something in, but. We just kept hearing it, got closer and closer, and Luke was like, "Adam's a big buck right there. He's coming up to us." And I'm like, "You're joking." And I was like loud.
I was like, dude.
Joking.
I was like, Adam, there is a big buck coming right at us. He's like, bro, you're kidding right now. And he was like full volume.
I thought he was
dude,
totally joking.
I was like, dude, shut up.
And I guess we waited another 30 seconds, and I was kind of getting psyched up because I believed him. And then I finally see this head come over the hill, and it was like the weirdest looking deer. It was like this wide and thick, but it like wasn't tall. But I didn't really care. I was young anyway, and I mean it was a big deer. And so he comes up, and he was probably 15 yards from us at that point. And I had the gun cocked. I had a single shot 20 gauge with a slug, and he was 15 yards. I mean, that's super close with a slug. And so as soon as I saw the broadside, I mean, I tried to make a good shot. And I squeezed the trigger, whatever. Me and Luke hop up, and we're hugging.
We gave each other the biggest hugs, and we're freaking out.
Yeah, and so we call Isaac and stuff. And we're like, Isaac, come over here. We shot this big buck. And we were all pumped. So Isaac comes over. And I don't remember. I think we went back to the house.
Yeah, we got flashlights because we had bumped my deer trying to track it. It was the same year, I think, because you were still hunting the same tree stand.
It was later on in the season because me and you, that was mid-October when you shot that buck.
Yeah.
This was in gun season, so.
Yeah. It was like November 14th.
So anyways, we went back to the house to get flashlights.
Yeah, so we come back out, and it was dark at this point, and we start looking around, and there's no blood. And I mean, I had never shot a deer before, I don't think. And I didn't really know if there was supposed to be blood or how much or whatever. And Isaac's like, "No, dude, there's no blood right here." I'm like, "Isaac, it is 15 yards away with a slug. Like it's got to be dead. There's no possible way." And Luke saw it too. I mean, it's crazy. And so we just keep looking around, and Isaac comes upon this vine that's split in two, and he looks at it and he's like, "You know what, that looks fresh." And he looks on the ground, and there's another half of the vine, and he just kind of puts two and two together. So basically, from 15 yards away, there's about a quarter size in diameter vine hanging perfectly across the spot that I shot, and it hit it and went under the deer into a pine tree, which we found, and it just went perfectly under, and I didn't even touch him. And so I think the moral of the story, first off, it was super disappointing, but I think the moral of the story is make sure I have good shots, and not shooting through brush and all this kind of stuff, and also stay calm. But I was young. That's why we have a lot of these funny stories, because we just didn't know any better.
Yep. That's what makes it funny, because like a lot of people, they grow up, they go hunting with their granddad, with their dad,
and their box blinds,
in their box blinds on this big family farm, whatever, and that's fine, and that's great that you have a good foundation to teach you about the beginnings of hunting, and we can't fault our dad for that, just because where we grew up, there just was not that same opportunity. And I mean, we grew up in upstate South Carolina at the base of the Blue Ridge Mountains. There's very, very few deer, and my dad never had a private land spot. Like we hunted, him and his brother hunted public land. So
if there was a deer, it was like the size of a small lab.
Yeah,
it was this size like Jack Russell.
So when we came up here, we just were going on the fly. So kind of I think my defining story, it's a little later than kind of theirs probably, but We had this 500-acre farm that we lived on, and I had never had any problems on the 17 acres that we lived on before seeing deer. Like, I shot my first deer when I was in like 7th grade, and it was so easy, with a bow, super easy. Well, we moved on this 500 acres, and there was one other guy that had permission to hunt. It was the landowner's like best friend, and of course, if you can imagine, he had all the best stand locations, all the best, blinds on the edges of the fields and everything. And it was really, he had all the good spots per se on this huge 500 acres. Well, we kind of learned, our only rule on this property was we could hunt anywhere we wanted. We just had to stay out of this guy's way, which was perfectly fine. So we stay out of the way, and we're learning, kind of these spots. Well, that summer, which I believe was the summer of 2014. It was summer of 2014. We were scouting in some soybean fields on this farm, and, we're laid out, all incognito and stuff, laying in the soybeans filming. And I'll never forget, I'm sitting there filming. I'm laying down in the soybeans about halfway down. I'm laying down in the soybeans, and literally I have my viewfinder like tilted down so that I can see, and I'm like kind of laying down in the soybeans, but I have my camera sticking up just enough to where I can film where the deer are coming out. And I have it turned just a little bit. And I'm watching these deer come out in the field. There's some does, some small bucks, whatever. And then all of a sudden, out of this field corner comes this huge buck. And I mean, it's like first week of July, probably, second week of July. So still a lot of time for this deer to grow. But I can see, like, it's clearly the biggest deer I've ever seen in my life. And I, like, start to get buck fever. I'm shaking. Like, it's so cool. So this kind of started my, like, obsession with finally chasing, like, a trophy class whitetail for the first time. We'd never done trail cameras, never done anything like that. We still really don't that much. But I saw this deer, and it got into my brain that I wanted to hunt this deer, figure out where I was living. So throughout that season, early season, and into, October, we had not seen this deer again. I watched it in the field up until probably a week before the season started, watched it grow all the way out, same field every night. And when season started, he was gone. I couldn't figure out why. Well, kind of coincidentally, when the season started, the other guy would start coming out there, start hunting, So I never put two and two together really, but kind of towards the rut, it was the first week of November. It was unseasonably warm. It was like 70 degrees during the day. And I had been having terrible luck, not seeing many deer. And I was like, I've got to find where this buck is hanging out on this property. So I start looking at these maps of the property. I'm like, where could he hide? And I was kind of isolating his home range where I'd filmed him in the summer. And I'm trying to like, okay, where is this at? What is he doing? Where could he possibly have gone? And the boys, I think, were hunting this little creek bed that was in front of our house. On this 500 acres, there was a creek bed that was really grown up and brushy. There was like no oak trees, nothing really that you would think would hold deer. Other than the fact that it was a creek bed that had a lot of trees. It was pretty thick, and it served as like a travel corridor that backed up to a highway. And it was out of the beaten path. Nobody ever hunted it, so naturally we hunted there because it was out of the way. Well, I remember one night I was hunting a different area, and Adam and Luke come back and they tell me, "Oh, dude, we saw this huge buck in this field. It was right at dark, He was running a doe, or him and another buck were running a doe around, whatever, and they jumped the fence right by us, right at last light, and like ran down, chasing this doe down through the woods." So I'm like, I wonder if that's a buck. So we get to looking around, and I think it was around noon on November the 4th. We go into this little patch of woods, and off of this creek bed, there's one little drainage that goes up away from the property to the very boundary of the property, and there's a hay field and a soybean field and a highway. And none of this we'd ever seen any deer on. It was no reason for any deer to be there. There was no food or anything. Well, we happened to go, I'm like, you know what, let's walk up here and just see what's up here. And I walk up, and immediately I see this huge rub on the side of the hill. And I'm like, wow, that is pretty massive. And so we keep going a little bit, and it's just like every 10, 15 yards on a cedar tree is just thrashed. I mean, cedar trees as big as our legs. I mean, we're just amazed. So we follow this trail up, and we get almost to the very end of this little finger of woods, and we can see across to the other side, and we see some more rubs, and we see that the rubs are going back down the opposite way. So we kind of put two and two together. This buck is coming in here, and he's bedding at the very end of this with his back to a highway where nothing is going to come from his back, and he can see anything that's coming up the draw to him, and he's got fields on his left and his right. So he's like, this is perfect big buck territory, and we had never realized that. I mean, this spot was 500 yards from our house, not far at all. So we figured this out. We go back to the house. We get a little, we had like the Walmart special, $50 sticks that weigh, like 100 pounds, and a hang on, that's,
We
super
love
old.
Walmart specials.
Walmart special is the best. Anyway, so we get this thing, and I go out there that night, and the boys are like, we're gonna go hunt that same spot that we hunted where we saw this big buck. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna go up this draw about halfway. I'm gonna hang in this little flat where there's a good deer trail, and I'm gonna hang up right here, and we'll see what we see. And I'm sitting there, and this is the funniest part of the story, because I'm getting so mad. It's like 70 degrees in November 4th when it's supposed to be perfect rut weather, dead silent. I don't see a deer all night long. And I'm like, this son of a gun lied to me. He saw a phantom, something. And I'm like, so I text him. It's starting to get dark. It's like right at dark. And I text Adam, and I still remember this. I texted him. I said, what time did you see those deer coming out in the field? And he was like 5:58. And I look at my phone, it's like 5:56. I'm like, all right, well, I'll sit tight.
It was literally 2 minutes.
Literally 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So I put my phone in my pocket, and I sit there. No sooner do I like kind of settle back down, I hear just like coming from behind me. And I'm like, that is a deer, unmistakable. And I turn and I look over my shoulder, and coming from straight downwind, I mean, I just see white antlers. And I'm like, my eyes get as big as a dinner plate, and I look around, and I'm like, oh my goodness, that is a deer. And I'm looking over my shoulder, so I don't have a great view, but I can see through the woods. This buck is like on a trot. So it's right before dark. Here he comes on a trot through these woods, and I'm like, he's going to get to me in time. So I keep watching him. He's probably 160 yards at this point. And he starts to get in a little closer, around 100 yards, and I'm like, this is a big buck. Like, this is a shooter, 100%. And I'm like, all right, I got to get ready. So I get my bow, and I like turn around, and I face the tree, because I'm like, this is going to be my only shot at it. It's literally almost dark. And so I turn around and I face the tree, and I like tell myself, I'm not going to look at this deer until it's time to shoot it, because I will get buck fever. So literally, I had no clue how many points were on this deer, what the spread was, not a clue, because I told myself I'm not looking at the antlers, because I've heard so many stories like, oh, I looked at the antlers and I shot his antler off. I've heard so many stories like that. Like, I'm not looking at the antlers. So I sit there and I wait, and he disappears down in this little drainage in the middle of the drainage where I can't see him. But I can hear him still walking. At this point, he's slowed down, and I had noticed earlier in the night there was 2 scrapes immediately to my right. Big, fresh scrapes. And so I'm like sitting here, and I'm like, well, he's probably going to pop up. And like no sooner, literally, 8 yards, I see a head and a big rack just pop up immediately to my right, up out of this creek bed. And he pops up, and he just, you can tell he's the boss of the woods. His neck is so swelled, looks like a horse. And he's just looking into the field, which the field is probably 60 yards to my left. And I'm kind of lined up on the only like open part in the fence. And so he's scanning. You can tell this big buck is so smart. He's not going to go in that field until it is literally dark. And he's standing there at the edge of this creek, and he's just scanning and scanning. He's looking up, but I think he's looking just right under me into the field. So I'm sitting here, mind you, and I've got buck fever like no other. I mean, I'm thinking this deer is, it's dead silent. This deer is literally going to hear my arrow chattering in the rest. He's so close, and is going to just run off. And so I'm just sitting there trying to keep my cool, not looking at his antlers, and trying not to look him in the eye either. And he's sitting there, and it felt like an eternity. But eventually he walks up over that hill, and right where those scrapes were, he just starts thrashing the scrapes. I mean, just whoosh, whoosh, whoosh in the leaves. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And he's behind some limbs, so I can't shoot him. But there's a big hickory tree in front of me. And I'm like, okay, as soon as he goes behind that hickory tree, I'm going to draw back. So he walks behind the hickory tree on his way towards the field. He makes a 90-degree turn left. He's only 5-6 yards at this point. And he turns and walks directly behind the hickory tree. And when he did, I drew back. And when I drew back, he was literally so close and it was so dead silent. I mean, you hear like whoosh of the arrow up the whisker biscuit. And he stopped. And I'm like, oh, I'm done. Like, he heard me. He's about to turn around. His deer is so smart. But anyway, I picked my spot. There's a little hole in the limbs. And I'm like, as soon as I see like that brown shoulder area, I'm just touching the trigger. I'm like, I'm not going to look at anything else. So I put my pin right in that hole in my limbs. And I'm just holding it there, and he takes like one step from behind the tree, and then on his very next step, I touch the trigger off, and he makes this big growl and kind of runs off real fast. And he runs kind of uphill, jumps the fence. Well, when I shot, it was getting so dark. Like, I shot and I see my Luminoc, it twirls up in the air and then falls to the ground, and I think, oh my gosh, like I just shot him right in the shoulder blade. Like, didn't get any penetration. My arrow broke off. Like, I just messed up this huge buck. Like, I thought I made a terrible shot. So I just sit back down in my tree stand, and I'm sitting there thinking, no way, I just blew this. I literally just blew the biggest buck I've ever seen in my whole life. So I didn't tell anybody. I didn't call anybody. I just sat there in silence for like 5 minutes. And
meanwhile, as a quick side note, me and Luke weren't 200 yards away or whatever. We hear this thing rolling around in the woods, just something. We're like, what in the world is that?
Yeah. So they're hearing this thing anyway. So I'm sitting there and I'm thinking to myself, I just messed up this huge deer, and I don't want to tell anyone because I'm like, what if I get this whole search party out here for this huge buck, and then it turns out, I made a terrible shot, we find nothing.
Me and Adam are listening
and I get
to him
clowned.
over there in the corner rolling around in the leaves. Isaac's over here mad at himself, beating himself up.
So anyway, I'm sitting there, and after about 5 minutes, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to call. So I call Adam, get out my phone, I call Adam. He's like, hello. And I'm like, dude, I just shot the biggest buck I've ever seen in my whole life. And they start freaking out. I'm like, but I was like, I don't think I hit him good. And they were like, and he's like, well, let's just wait and see. So I tell him, I'm like, all right, well, you guys come here, but make a wide loop so you don't walk around where this deer went to, because it ran right towards them. So they make a wide loop, come over, we go back to the house, we call our buddies. And our buddies come out, search party comes out. Well, turns out once we get to the shot, and there's literally only basically my fletchings are sticking out with my Luminoc on the ground. That's it. So it broke off all the way at the fletchings, and then I shine the flashlight up the trail, and there's just blood. Looks like someone took a water hose up through the woods. And so my mood immediately just changed so much. And we tracked this deer. And he kind of turned and went uphill, and we weren't sure still at that point. Then I found the arrow a little ways down. At that point, it was a 3-blade Rage, and it was covered in blood too. And so then we're like, okay. So we start to track it up. We track it by a pond, and then down over the next hill, probably 100 yards maybe. And it goes down across this hill, and we come over the hill, and I just shine my light. Just the biggest bodied, biggest racked buck I've ever seen in my whole life. That buck ended up going 151 and like 3/8, which to some people may be small, but to a lot of people in the south or way up north, that's a huge buck. And I mean, literally triple brow tines, like 4-inch mass in between the G2s and G3s. Like, I mean, just massive mass, which is the kind of bucks I like anyway. And just a brute of a deer,
Well, it's exciting too because it was the first time we had ever in our whole lives seen a deer in preseason.
Yeah.
And then you had now killed it, and we didn't even realize it was the same deer, but it was a deer we had been hunting for without any trail cameras or anything or corn piles or anything. So that made it pretty neat in itself.
It just taught me in that moment, for one, you can the best place to find the big bucks are the place where you absolutely least expect them. Because there was a guy who had permission to hunt this farm, and he was hunting pretty much every night because he was retired. And he's going to every corner of this farm hunting every single time. And I'm thinking, where is the one place that he doesn't hunt? And we go to the one place, rubs galore, right in front of a house, 500 yards from the house. And in a little nasty creek drainage full of hedge apples and thorns and everything. So we find this huge buck there, and we end up killing it. And I mean, the celebration was ridiculous. We actually had to get permission from another farmer because this deer was so heavy. We had to get permission from another farmer to drag it through his field to pick it up with a truck at the road instead of dragging it like the 500 yards through the thick stuff and through the creek. Because, I mean, literally that deer had to have been 300 pounds. Had to have been. And so that basically was, I guess, my defining hunt, and probably one of our defining hunts, like, as a whole, just because, like, we'd hunted a long time, even at that point, without ever killing, like, a big deer, so to speak. But when it, it's like when you hit, like, say, it's like when you hit your first home run, you're like, oh, I can do this. It wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
So it's like now we kind of figure out, okay, this formula actually kind of works. And that kind of set us up and, like, kicked us into, like, hyperdrive, I think, as far as, like, okay, now what's the next step to get to that next big buck? And there were a lot of times over the next couple of years where we just didn't shoot deer that were very small, just because we learned that, hey, if you don't shoot the little ones and you let the little ones go, you can actually shoot a really big deer. And there were countless, and I mean countless times, we had deer as big as the one I shot or bigger within range, or just across a property line, or we saw him and didn't have a shot. I mean, it was ridiculous, and it's still ridiculous to me because
or shot and didn't.
Yeah, or shot and never found.
Yeah.
So, like, that's kind of, for you guys that don't know us very well, or you just follow us and like our pictures, like us for whatever reason.
We have not had it easy.
No, we haven't, and we learned this, and so then when we go to college, me and Adam started off at EKU, and then Luke went to Asbury. Well, at Asbury, he was kind of away from us and stuff, and he would drive during, like, turkey season.
Oh, it was terrible.
Every morning, like 45 minutes one way.
No, it was literally, it was like a complete hour, like one way to get to Richmond from Asbury. I was driving every single morning. I mean, they'd text me and be like, hey, do you want to come turkey hunt? And I'm like, honestly, I'm so bored. I'm out of here. I'm going turkey hunt. And I'm sitting here thinking, well, at Asbury, I have to go to chapel Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I can only miss, like, I think it was like 6 or 7 times or something, or you fail. And it's a Christian college, so I'm like, well, I got to make it to chapel. Chapel's at 10 a.m. Richmond's an hour away. I'm trying to do the math in my head. So I just got this thing going where I would just, like, wake up at like 4 a.m. out of my dorm room. I'd just hop in my car every single day and drive to Richmond, and we would turkey hunt. And we didn't kill anything that whole entire turkey season. I don't even think we saw a turkey. And this was only last year, and I literally would get back in my car after our hunt, and I would be so defeated, like, man, I just walked this public land for miles. I'm gonna get in my car. I'm going to drive an hour back, and I'm going to go to chapel, and then from chapel to class and everything. In my camo. I mean, I'd walk in there full turkey camoed out with my mug boots on to go sit in the back pew like, man, what the heck?
Yeah. So it was like, it's one of those things that it's like we started having to hunt public land when we moved to EKU because we no longer lived on that farm, for one, and for two, we were an hour and a half away from home. So we were just making it happen because we had no family land, no money to lease, for one. We're college kids. And so we're literally just out here trying to make it happen, not seeing a thing, basically. So it really does shape your character, and it kind of that's
humble you.
Yeah, it will humble you, and it put another chink in our armor, I think, of learning patience for one, but also learning how to hunt a different area that's harder. I think every challenge we've come to in our life, in life and hunting, in the outdoor industry, we've just met it head on and thought, okay, what's the next step? How do we overcome this? How do we beat this system that's been, that's a disadvantage to us? And I think we have hit everything head on with a positive attitude, which kind of, I think, comes in, with us being Christians. I think we appreciate what we've been given, the opportunities that we have, and we just look at it with a positive attitude. And we went out and we hunted so hard, deer season and turkey season, only to literally get, nothing. I mean, we didn't.
Don't get us wrong. It is not always a happy, cheery, go-lucky Midwest Madness. Trust me, I mean, there's mornings you don't want to wake up. You don't have money, first off, even if you're working a job.
You're riding on change.
Yeah, even if you're working a job, man, like you go to college. I transferred to EKU so that we could all be together and try to do more stuff. And even, I mean, I was working at Chick-fil-A at the time. I wasn't making, bank or anything, but I was just making enough money to buy groceries and stuff. And sometimes you wake up in the morning and you're like, dude, I could go drive back home to hunt public land, but that's going to be $30 in gas, and then I'm going to have to pay for my food when I'm there, and whatever I do at home is going to cost money. And not even just the money stuff. I mean, sometimes it's defeating. You go out every single day that you possibly can. You're, planning your classes around deer season, turkey season, so that you can hunt, and then you go out day after day after day after day and don't see anything. You're spending your money, equipment. I mean, putting money into camera equipment and stuff like that that's a big investment to go out and sit and get your butt frozen off and to not see anything like that. So it just makes it a whole heck of a lot sweeter when things do come together. Like this last fall when Adam was able to get his buck. And it just so happened, the one single time.
So it always happens.
The one single time, I swear you cannot make this stuff up. The one time I did not hunt with Adam and film. And I mean, we film every single hunt like we're trying to be, raised hunting or Heartland bow hunter. And I think that we do a pretty good job trying to do that. Well, the one time that I wasn't with Adam and my mom goes out with Adam, here comes his buck right through the woods, and Adam ended up making it happen. But that's just how it goes. So it's not always super easy, but it just, it's just a passion that we have. And if you really want it, then, you can't wake up in the morning and let it defeat you. You just got to go for it.
And I think that's why a lot of people relate to us and a lot of people like us and follow us, because anybody can post a grip and grin photo. Anybody can pay to hunt a lease. Anybody can pay
some corn.
Yeah, anybody can hunt over a corn pile on a really good farm and shoot a really good deer. I mean, sure, there's probably some skill involved in that, but to go out and repeatedly try and be denied, it builds your character, and then people really, I think, they really relate to that, because I think a lot of people fail more than they let on. And, in this world of social media, a lot of people just, they post only the good things. But there's a lot of times when there's a lot of people out there like you and I that are out there on public land and are thinking, dang, these guys didn't get anything either. Well, now I don't feel so bad. And I think that's where people really identify with us, is because our whole, our mantra from the beginning has been, hey, look, we're just some average dudes. We hunt some average to subpar land, and honestly, we just do our best.
Yeah, it's crazy even just to think. I mean, so you talked about Dad growing up not hunting or anything, and Mom kind of, but Dad was the one that kind of got out there and started showing us things. First off, he has never turkey hunted ever, and so we're still literally figuring it out, and somehow we post these pictures and stuff on Instagram or Facebook, whatever it is, and to have to somehow come up with some sort of, content for people to look at, even though we honestly sometimes have no clue what we're doing. This turkey season, I have never in my life ever tried any kind of turkey calling, nothing, just because, it seems like every time somebody kills a turkey, it's my great uncle, he's a turkey calling master. He went out there and called him right to me. He sat in my lap, and I got this great turkey.
Or they shoot him as they fly
with his 10.5-inch beard. Or he got Larry the Limb Lifter. I mean, there's all kinds of crazy crap. But what I'm saying is, literally, sometimes we don't even have a freaking clue what we're doing. And it kind of just makes it interesting. It's well, what are we going to post today? We haven't killed anything.
You guys are along for the ride.
We have not done anything.
Just as much as you guys, we are out there doing the same thing. And, I may post a cool fact or I sometimes have a way with words. I might take a picture that literally probably has no meaning and make this nice caption out of it. But a lot of times we're literally out there, and there's been, I would say, probably 90 to 10 the times that we mess up to the times that we succeed. And we learn so much, dumb stuff. You're defeated at the end of a hunt because the turkeys flew down and went the other way. And you're like, man,
and you've only got a 10-acre plot.
Yeah. And here's what you do. You take your stuff and you're defeated at that point, And we get up, we pick up our decoys, and we walk over the hill. And the second we crest the hill, big long beard right there, he sees us and he runs off.
Yeah, that's.
And if I had $1 for every time that's happened to us, I would literally be rich. That is just how like it goes when.
Or deer, same thing with deer.
Deer, same thing. You get up, everybody says, "Oh, deer move the middle of the day, whatever." You sit in the 30-degree weather, and you're realistically everybody gets cold. So at 10:30 in the morning,
if
you're
I had
like,
a human
"Dang, man."
bodysuit, I bet I wouldn't get cold.
You're like, my toes are icicles. You're like, I'm gonna get up and walk around, and I mean, seriously, at that moment in time. You creak your stand to stand up or rustle a leaf to stand up. You turn around, there's a Boone and Crockett bug right behind you.
Or a doe, something stupid like that.
Yeah, I've got 1,000 stories like that.
Yeah,
Well, we've
that'd
got
be
plenty
enough.
more podcast times, dude.
Yeah.
Even like fishing though, like if we're trying to fill a little gap for the Instagram or Facebook, whatever it is, or YouTube, anything. We're like, you know what? We're gonna go out and fish. We know these ponds, okay? We know people who have caught fish in here. We've got Fish Brain. We're literally using everything. Just got Fish Brain Pro. We've got everything that we could possibly, have to figure out where fish are. We'll go out and fish on a perfect morning, and I swear to you, the universe has just cursed us sometimes. I mean, like you won't catch a fish or anything. So there's just the craziest things. I mean, it's gonna be nice. One of these days, when everything comes together. But right now, man, we're just
winging it. But so I kind of want to tell everyone, we're getting close to our time. We got about 10 minutes left here. But I wanted to tell you guys, here is where we are at now. So you guys kind of are putting together this story in your heads of these guys that are just average guys that are private land hunters, but public land style, beast style is what a lot of people call it. We hunt like the hunting beast, the hunting public. We met Adrian in the fall, and he's like, "You dudes are like exactly like the hunting public. You just nobody knows you right now," and that's the truth. And so we kind of want to give you guys an update on where we're at and kind of what we are doing to bring you up to speed. So right now, it is official. Well, I don't know. I think maybe Luke's a little different, but. I have officially dropped out of college to pursue this 100% full-time. We're doing construction on the side to kind of pay some of the bills, but we're literally trying to. I moved back from Richmond to Oldham County. Me and Emily, we talked and we talked with the boys too, and we decided that if we're going to give this a shot, you can't be 1 foot in the water and 1 foot out. To do anything and to be successful, if I could leave you guys with one tip, it's go all in. Because if you put 1 foot in the water, I mean, if you're in the deep end, but your hand is still inside the pool, well, you're not really in the deep end. So one thing I would just give advice to you guys is just to push off because I've given it a 100% full effort. And the reason I dropped out is because I wasn't happy in what I was doing. And I think these boys can relate in the same thing. Like just the vision that we have for ourselves and for our life and everything, it just doesn't fit a mold. There's no mold that you could put the Kent boys in and say, this is what they're going to do for the rest of their life. This is what they're destined to do. And I think God has a plan for us that's special. And he's given us this ability to talk to you guys and really use it as a way to spread his word for one, but also to give us an avenue to create a career of sorts. And with that, we're still learning. Just like we said, it's 100% jump off the diving board type of situation. I mean, Adam, same boat. He dropped out, same thing. Luke may do some online, but I think that, and I know these boys will agree and they'll get a chance in a second, but, we went all in. And I think, our finances would show that, our dedication would show that. If you guys looked at our media, I hope you see the sincerity and the genuine content that we put out there that's a lot different than a lot of other people. We literally, truly do give it all we have every single time we go out to do something, and we're not sellouts to some big company. Some people just have money and they can start a hunting show. They're sitting on a lump of cash. They go to Outdoor Channel. They say, hey, I bought all this equipment. I want a spot on air. And you can buy a spot on Sportsman's Channel. I mean, there's people that do that, and that's their way into the outdoor industry. And I think we're a lot more organic and have grown grassroots and have really just met a lot of great people along the way that really, truly believe in what we're doing. And we may grow slower than some people. I mean, we promotions are huge on social media platforms right now. And our social media budget is basically whenever we have a spare $5 laying around from doing a job. And usually at the end of that, you're like, dang, that $5 coming out of your account, you're like, that's kind of a lot. So, we really do try our best to keep it real for everyone, and we want to be open and honest with you guys, because one thing I learned is that humans like to live through other people. And so some people may not be in the position that we're in. They may have kids, they may have a life, a good stable job. And just the reality for them is that they're in a spot in life where they're not able to completely go all in because they have responsibilities, and that's perfectly okay. But at this point in our life, we've just decided, hey, none of us have kids yet. I do have a wife, so I have some responsibilities. I got rent, I have bills to pay in some respect. But that's just kind of what we've done, and I know these boys would say the same. And so every like, every comment, every save, every repost in our story, every person that we meet from an industry, perspective, something like that, every one of those things is so important and is so special, and it really brings it all full circle to us. And I know these boys probably could add a little bit to that as well, I think.
Yeah, I'll just say, I think with you dropping out, and Adam's now doing real estate stuff online. He's taking real estate classes and stuff like that. And I'm still signed up for online classes to finish out my degree. I've got about a year left. But I think that, when you say you're Christian, whatever, I think if you truly believe, that that God does have a plan for you to prosper and, to end up having a good life. He has a plan for your life. I think that there is great comfort knowing when everybody else says, man, you're crazy. You guys are crazy. This isn't what you need to do. Why don't you just go get this job? It'll be enough to pay your bills. Why don't you go do this? Because this is what everybody else is doing. This is what my friend's doing, my brother's doing. And, it would at least get you through. Well, I think, being a Christian, it's like overwhelmingly comfortable to where you can say, you know what, I think that if you do something you're truly passionate about, and, you pray about it and really put your heart into what you're doing, I think you'll be taken care of, even if it's not what society says is normal and what everybody else wants you to do. I truly believe that it'll work out whatever you do if you give it 100%, go into it, just, unafraid of what the outcome can be. If you're not afraid of failure and you just know, what, no matter what, you're going to just do it. If you have the mindset of it's going to work out, I truly believe that is what happens. Some of the most successful people ever are the ones that are the outcasts, and people say, man, you should just go get this job. Go get this 9-to-5 job, man. This is going to be great for you. Like, no, some people just know, that they don't want to do it. And I truly believe being a Christian is a great advantage of just knowing, we're going to just trust God with whatever happens. Even if we just end up just getting to hunt together, that's our time is definitely worth it. So I think definitely being a Christian is a really big part of the foundation, that we have established with our Midwest Madness stuff. And I think, occasionally you can see that through the posts, but the podcast really great platform to be able to see that and, kind of get a better feel of who we are and why we're doing what we are and just who we are as, people other than outside of our social media platforms, stuff like that. So yeah, that's my thing to add is we're just going for it because we know it's not that we're just hoping on a whim and everything. You still have to have some sort of direction, and it's okay to be strategical and have a plan of, we're doing this stuff on the side, construction and filming weddings and getting media jobs and things like that. So there's nothing wrong with planning, but the comfort of just knowing, what, hey, it's in your hands. Do with us what you want to happen. We're going to glorify you in whatever we do. I think that is, why even we have the little success that we have, And I think it's not because of us.
Yeah.
I mean, we obviously have not had big deer. We've not caught the biggest fish or killed the biggest turkeys. We're just three dudes who are just, trying to be good Christian guys and do what we love to do. So that's what I got to say about it.
All right, Adam, you got anything to add to that?
It's just same as Luke. Just, we left school because we just weren't happy, and it wasn't, I thought what you said was perfect. We don't fit a mold, really.
Yeah.
Not like I don't know, we're just not typical people, I'd say.
Yeah.
And just knowing, having a peace inside of you, knowing that everything is going to work out, even after you've had the stress of college and having to make a lot of money and stuff. Just the peace that you get, that's really what motivated me to come home. And it did make me complacent, just with you're lazy and stuff, because we're still doing all this, but I think I just know everything's going to work out, so I'm excited to do all this, and I'm not worried. I'm just wanting to do what I want and enjoy life. And
there's definitely more value, in finding things that are actually life-fulfilling than making money, any sort of dollar sign, whatever. You see some of the greatest people ever, they're always asking what's next. And you're like, man, are you not happy enough, with what you've got? You've made it this far. So I think, little things like that are an example to me of, dude, go out in the woods during the rut and sit there and look around, even if there's no deer, and just take it in, because that's life. And that is the stuff that you can't put a dollar sign on. Or take a spontaneous trip to Utah, see some mule deer in the sky at night, and just know that is the kind of stuff that nobody in any career can pay. You can't pay for that kind of experience or happiness or fulfillment. And that's why I'm all in Midwest Madness. And, we're just so thankful for everybody else who, anybody who likes our pictures or comments or reaches out to us or even knows about us. It's just the most crazy thing to us. So we're just super thankful for everybody that's been involved.
For sure. Well, we're running a little over time right now by about a minute, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here. I think we had a great discussion tonight. I hope we brought everyone up to speed, kind of where we're at, how we got to this point. If not, you guys feel free to let us know either in the comments or if you were just listening. Make sure to leave us a review. I can't tell you to leave a 5-star review, but if you leave a 5-star review, I won't be mad. Just leave some questions. If you have topics that you'd like us to cover or other things that you want maybe more background on or future topics or future trips, anything and everything, just drop it down either in the comments or leave us a review. You can really help us out by sharing this podcast. Share it with a friend that you think might enjoy what we have, or share this on your story. If you're watching a clip of this on YouTube or Instagram, share this to your Instagram story. Copy this link, post it on Facebook, anything like that. It really helps us, and it really takes nothing except for a few seconds of your time. So we'd really appreciate that. Also, make sure you follow us at all of our socials. We'll list those in the description as well. Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter if you want. We have it pretty much all. Make sure you follow us on there as well. We're looking forward to the next one already. We're
gonna try 1,000 funny stories to come.
We do. We have a lot more things to talk to you guys about, a lot more stories to share.
Can't fit it all on one SD card, so
that's right. We're already at an hour and 2 minutes, and I told these boys we were thinking, well, how long should we go? Well, I'm going to tell you, 30 minutes goes by fast, and here we are at an hour, and I could go even an hour more. So we're going to cut it off right here, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. You guys are the best. You're the reason why we do what we do and why we are still able to do what we do. Above all that, we thank the good Lord for allowing us this opportunity and for giving us a platform to share not only His word, but our story. We are so lucky for that. So thank you guys so much for watching and listening. We will catch you guys on the next episode of the Midwest Madness Podcast.